Good evening, everyone. Was it loud? No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Gala Night of CSPC 2018. My name is Homa Khairulapur. I'm environmental research scientist at University of Waterloo and have the privilege to co-chairing CSPC 2018 program committee. Tonight, we three young women scientists are here, and it gives us a great pleasure to introduce you a champion who is not only a successful politician, also a great scientist, and a great voice for women in science. She worked so hard past 3 years, not only to increase the participation of girls and young scientists in science, young women in science, also strengthen us to believe in ourselves and believe what we do matters for Canadian science and for society. Here now, in CSPC 2018, 57% of speakers are women. She inspired me when I met her in CSPC back in 2016, when she strongly stated, impossible is nothing. Impossible is just a dare. And tonight, I'm standing here as a young women scientist and one of the 2019 Canada Researcher nominee who learned to move from asking the question whether I can be successful to how I can be successful. My experience as a woman, as a mom, as a scientist in the last few years been wonderful. As the more I developed my career, the more I learned how to stand for myself. And now I believe it's our collective responsibilities to help her by continuing to invest in the enormous potential of our youth and help her to inspire them to embrace their life opportunities and remind them that impossible is nothing. Impossible is just a dare.
Hello, my name is Jessica McQuiggan, and I work in the field of informal science education as a researcher at Science World, the science center in downtown Vancouver. And one of my favorite things about working at a science center is that I get to interact with the public, and particularly with young children who are so excited to learn about the world around them. Kids who are creative, who aren't afraid to fail, and who are just beginning to discover all of the amazing paths that a passion for science can lead to. When I completed my PhD in neuroscience in 2016, I knew that a career in academia wasn't what I wanted to pursue. But I wasn't concerned for my future. I was really excited, and I still am. The last few years in Canada have been so uplifting for me, seeing women in science taking more public-facing roles, advocating for integrating research and data into everyday decision-making. So when Duncan was announced as Canada's first woman Minister of Science, it sent a message to the country. Yes. It sent a message to the country, and especially to our young people, that there is a bright future for scientists in Canada, not just in labs and universities, but in all areas of society. And her ongoing advocacy and leadership tells the young girls and boys that walk through Science World that there is a place for science in Canada and that there's a place for them in science.
All right, I promise I'm the last one. I'm Alina Chan. I'm a postdoctoral fellow in the Human Frontier Science program at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. I'm a Canadian living abroad, and like any Canadian living in the US today, I love to rub it in my US counterparts' faces that Canada is having a scientific renewal. And we've had so many great moments in the past few years. We have a new chief science advisor, a new fundamental science review panel, and we've got billions of dollars in our budget for investigator-led Canadian research. All right, so the fact that both our Minister of Science and our Chief Science Advisor are women tells me that doors are opening for women in science in Canada. And to those two women, I say, please hold the door. I've been incredibly lucky to have the most wonderful and supportive PhD supervisor at the Michael Smith Labs at UBC. And I'm really lucky today to work at the Broad, which is a really progressive and diverse workplace for scientists. But I know that women around the world in science, including myself, face unspeakable challenges that chase even the best of us out of science and stop us from contributing to the transformative breakthroughs in science around the world. And so that's why I'm so in awe of our champion and how fiercely she has held universities and research councils accountable for nominating and appointing gender-diverse boards. And I'm in awe of her evidence-driven initiatives to identify and tackle challenges for women in the federal science workforce. And I know that behind every woman scientist who is successful, there is a hero who is holding those in power accountable. So for now, let's extend a really warm welcome to our champion, the Honorable Kirsty Duncan, Minister of Science.
Distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, friends, family, bonjour à tous, good evening, everyone. To our three extraordinary women scientists, I am absolutely humbled. And thank you for proving every day impossible is a dare. We need your smarts, we need your ideas, and you are our future. Thank you. I want to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Algonquin people. And I want to thank Elder Colette Commanda for the beautiful, warm welcome and for the blessings she brought. And to the children who sang our national anthem, we thank you. Now, let me begin by saying thank you to Mayor Dad Harari and his team. And I am going to ask Mayor Dad, the team, the organizers, and the volunteers to stand. Everyone, this is the team that has worked so hard, and I know they start the day after, to bring you yet again an absolutely fantastic conference. And Mayor Dad, I have heard loud and clear, it has been absolutely fantastic. Je suis très honorée d'être ici pour la 4e fois avec un groupe si remarquable. I'm honored to be here because science matters, research matters, policy matters, and what you do each and every day, it matters to Canadians, and I thank you. And I should say, I look around this room. This is not just a community I know, but it's friends and family. And I thank you. 10 years ago, I made a choice to leave teaching and research and run for office. I left a job I loved. I loved academia, and I left to serve the community where I was born and raised. And I made the choice to bring a researcher's perspective to the policy-making process. When we were in opposition, the Prime Minister and I often discussed, that was Justin Trudeau back then, the Prime Minister and I often discussed science and research when we were seatmates on the opposition benches. Now, you all know he gives a great explanation of quantum. Yes? A great one? What you don't know is our Prime Minister also used to teach me engineering puzzles. On long nights of voting, on 24-hour votes, we talk policy, we talk science, we talk research, and he taught me engineering puzzles. J'étais maintenant en mesure de développer un objectif important, un changement total culturel dans la science canadienne. My main objective from the outset was to return science and research to their rightful place in government. I wanted to ensure our researchers and students had the funding they needed to do their research, the funding they needed for their labs and tools, the digital research infrastructure necessary for today and tomorrow. I want to help create a thriving economy powered by homegrown discoveries and innovations, a country world-renowned as a research leader. I want to strengthen science literacy and, by extension, respect for data and evidence, and respect for Indigenous knowledge. And I want to strengthen our culture of curiosity, where all young Canadians are encouraged to discover and to dream. Forward now to 2016, when I returned to CSPC with a year's worth of work to share, not the least of which was the largest top-up to our federal granting councils in a decade. Statistics Canada had just rolled out the first long-form census in 10 years. We've been working across government to implement our policy to ensure that federal scientists could speak freely about their work. And we'd be doing the research to develop the position of a chief science advisor, a position which had been canceled. And let's not forget the $2 billion in some 300 new buildings and research infrastructure upgrades at post-secondary institutions across Canada. Now, at the same time, we were also working on that larger, long-term culture overhaul I mentioned. A key step was appointing a blue ribbon panel to look at how the government could improve the way we fund research in this country. Now I know there are some members of the panel in the audience tonight. I would ask that they stand and let's have a round of applause for their service to Canada. The Fundamental Science Review, as we all know it, would give us an unvarnished opinion on how to improve things. Je voulais savoir comment on pourrait améliorer le soutien à nos chercheurs débutants, multidisciplinaires et à risque. Si nous pouvons financer les efforts internationaux et mieux représenter la diversité canadienne dans nos laboratoires. Simply put, I wanted to know exactly what we need to do to support our world-class researchers here in Canada. Now, by the time I returned to the podium in 2017, we had the recommendations of the Fundamental Science Review. What's more, we had incorporated those recommendations into a vision for the future of science and research in Canada. Now, Mayor Dad, there was something I couldn't tell you then. But by now you know. We backed up that grand vision with grand support. A historic $4 billion in new investments in Canadian science and research. And my friends, that includes the largest investment in basic discovery, fundamental research, whatever you want to call it, and for Dr. Hewitt and the Canada Research Coordinating Committee, a 25% increase to the granting councils. The lifeblood of our research ecosystem. Currently, we are marshaling all our resources to get this money flowing. Those who are familiar with NSERC's discovery grants will know we have made those big announcements already. And I want to say I've been grateful to hear from researchers that the increase in these grants have made a big impact. Et tous ceux associés au réseau d'institutions de calibre mondial du Canada pour voir que nous avons déjà renforcé considérablement le programme d'innovation du collège et de la communauté. Now, because I know this audience is interested in details, that's as funny as I get, folks. I'm happy to update you on a few of the other files that are moving at the moment. Our Chief Science Advisor, yes, a hand for Dr. Mona Niemer. And I don't have to tell you, Dr. Niemer just celebrated her first anniversary in the role. I had asked Dr. Niemer to develop a scientific integrity policy. And I'm pleased to say her model is now being adapted and implemented by departments across government with an end-of-year deadline. I also asked her to work to bring in departmental chief scientists so that scientific advice could be strengthened across government. You'll be pleased to hear we should have 6 chief scientists in place over the coming months, with more to follow. And this will give our chief science advisor a strong network of peers to consult. Additionally, I have asked Canada's top scientists to look at open science and open data. Dr. Niemer has already done so much to embed science and evidence throughout the government, both now and in the future, and I would ask that you recognize her contributions. In other areas, we have almost wrapped up conversations on how to put into place our big digital research infrastructure investment. And the report from the Canada Research Coordinating Committee. And if the Granting Council heads are here, and I see Dr. Hewitt, I would ask them to stand to be recognized. I want to know your Granting Councils work tirelessly on your behalf. And I want to particularly thank Dr. Hewitt. Ted, it is not easy to go from a siloed approach to bring everyone together, and you've been doing that hard work, and I thank you. Je sais qu'il y a plusieurs individus ici qui ont contribué aux efforts. Merci à tous. I can also share that we are looking at ways to better support the next generation of researchers through scholarships and fellowships. And I know that's a topic of one of the sections on Friday afternoon, so I'm glad we're on the same page. I can also tell you that my officials are working with key stakeholders to develop a new principle-based framework on how to fund third-party research organizations. Je veux améliorer la confiance et transparence dans le processus. J'ai hâte de recevoir les recommandations dans les mois à venir. We should soon be, this is exciting, we should soon be in a position to announce phase 1 of a multi-year renewal plan for our federal science laboratories. Colleagues, this is a $2.8 billion commitment. Ultimately, we need to establish a new approach to federal science and discovery, one that is integrated, multidisciplinary, and capable of ongoing renewal, and one that incorporates Indigenous knowledge. We are steadfast in our commitment to advancing reconciliation with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. I believe that science and research are important elements in our progress to reconciliation, and I'm grateful to all of you who keep this front and center. Now, let me talk about an issue that is so important to me: equity and diversity. More broadly, equity and diversity in our universities, colleges, cégeps, polytechnics, and in government. En tant que chercheur et individu politique, j'essaie d'encourager la diversité dans la recherche. Plus important encore, demeurer dans la recherche tout au long de leurs études et de leur carrière. To that end, we have made changes to our most prestigious research positions so that more women, as well as persons with disabilities, Indigenous peoples, visible minorities, and LGBTQ2 individuals have a shot at these coveted roles. I have also asked that the universities bring forward ambitious equity and diversity plans, and I really want to thank the universities for the hard work that they have been doing. I'm truly heartened by the gains we are already seeing. For example, we have appointed the Canada 150 research chairs, and are you ready for this? A full 60% are women. And at this point, I do want to take a moment to recognize there are incredible equity, diversity, inclusion champions in this room. I can't possibly name them all, but I want to thank you for the extraordinary work that you do and that you have fought for decades. Moving forward, we are looking at how to bring in a Made in Canada version of Athena Swan. This is an internationally recognized program to advance equality at post-secondary institutions. We will make sure we have a Made in Canada approach. And I want to thank all those who participated throughout the summer in the consultations. We will include the 4 designated groups, and we will also add in the LGBTQ2 community. Friends, we have an opportunity to transform our institutions. And I want to thank you for the tremendous work you've been doing in this area. Si nous voulons rester compétitifs, le Canada doit avoir plus de diversité dans les rôles académiques supérieurs, dans les rôles de chaire de recherche. We must expand the variety of ideas, the research questions. Just imagine the discoveries, insights, and innovations. Diversity can only strengthen Canadian research. Newly appointed Canada 150 Research Chair Judith Elizabeth Mank is studying the genetic differences between men and women. And her research asks if we might be missing more effective treatments for women when we're only screening male mice for drug targets. This is the kind of insight that comes from diversity of perspective. Colleagues, it's about changing hearts and minds, as well as programs and policies. And that goes for everything we are doing together. Change is never easy, but it is worth it, and it absolutely has to happen. We know that more than 4 out of 5 Canadians believe science improved their lives, so the support for science and research is there. But we also know that Canada is not immune to international trends. Unfortunately, a recent study shows that more than 2 in 5 Canadians consider science a matter of opinion. It's very worrying. We must pay attention to these views. So as like-minded peers, I challenge you to get out there. Tell everyone you know that Canada needs science and Canada needs research. And when you travel beyond our shores, point out that research needs Canada too. And I ask you to tell your stories, the important work you do. Canadians need to know. Mayor Dad, in bringing scientists, researchers to Parliament Hill this week was really important. An important dialogue started, and I have had more colleagues come up to me and say, I was able to talk about my research. I was able to talk about my lab, how we're training the next generation. Share your stories. Know that in all this, you have no greater ally than me. En tant que ministre des Sciences, j'espère démontrer à travers mes paroles et actions que je suis un champion pour la science et les scientifiques canadiens. Before I close, I want all of us to make some noise for our most recent Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Donna Strickland. And let's acknowledge our other Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Art McDonald. My friends, my colleagues, I cannot tell you how enormously proud I am to come from this community. What you do matters. And I sincerely hope we can continue building this powerful relationship, because I know that together we can revolutionize research in Canada. We will transform research in this country for many years to come. To all of you, thank you for your contributions to Canada. Merci.